Welcome to Tilly's Trans Tuesdays. Much to my own surprise, this week is a topic people have asked me about for literally years, which blows my mind, but here we are. Welcome to Photos 3, Tilly's Guide to Selfies. Hi, I'm Tilly Bridges, your host, and I'm joined by my writing partner, my best friend, my wife, our token cis representation, the lens of my life aimed right at my heart, Susan Bridges.
I'm just going to let that go.
Probably for the best.
Yeah.
Our returning guest is Errata, a femme non-binary scholar and artist based out of Michigan. While it may not be obvious from her current social media habits, she used to really struggle with having her picture taken. Over the last year, she's cultivated a new appreciation for the art of the selfie and enjoys sharing her unique sense of fashion in queer spaces online. Errata credits the support she found in trans social media spaces for her newfound sense of confidence in front of the camera lens and in the world at large. Welcome back again, Errata.
It's really great to be back.
So let me ask you about being a scholar and how that has worked for you in terms of transition. Did that go smoothly? Have you encountered any barriers that weren't there before you came out? I mean, how's it been over in that field?
I think that since coming out fully, starting medical transition, I don't think it's negatively impacted, or at least I have not noticed a negative impact on my career. And in fact, I think that it's in some ways been beneficial. That
That's
when
amazing.
I interviewed, yeah, I'm very lucky in that regard. When I did my campus visit, I had, really struggled with what I was going to wear for that. And I was
Sure.
in a suit, but then I also, as a compromise with myself, I'm like, okay, so the suit, it's like a little bit more of like a feminine cut. And then I wore makeup and my hair was dyed. It's like Lisa Frank explosion of colors. So I'm just
Oh.
like, okay, they're getting a taste of what they're in for. And that
Yeah,
was really important to me, right? That
sure.
even though, the academic job market is awful. I think I applied to 40 or 50 positions and I heard back for an interview for two of them,
Oh
which
my
is quite
gosh.
disheartening. So it's this really high stakes moment, right? When you go
Yeah.
for the campus visit because you are making an impression. And I think after having spent 7 years in Indiana not feeling safe
Yeah, sure.
being who I was at work, right? I decided, okay, they need to know what they're in for, and I need to know how they're going to react to that. And
Right.
so, I presented what was authentic for myself at the time, and they obviously liked me and the work that I'm doing well enough to hire me and keep me on. So I I think I had still my first year, I got my PhD in summer of 2020. So my first year teaching here was entirely online.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really get a sense of how my students were responding to me. And it wasn't until I started teaching in person in my second year here that I kind of got a sense for how students reacted to the weird, bald trans professor who likes talking about games, right?
Yeah.
But within that first year, at the end of class, I had a student who had kind of pulled me aside after our last day and had said that in their 4 years at this institution, they'd never once had a queer instructor ever, let alone a trans instructor, and how
Yeah.
meaningful it was
Oh my gosh.
for that student to see somebody who was in their community in
Yeah.
a position of relative authority and success, right? And that moment was huge for me. It was pretty shortly after that point that I started, I made the appointment for an HRT consult.
Yeah.
Because I like, again, after we had talked last episode about making do
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
so long. And so like I was prepared to continue to make do. And when that student told me that, I recognized that like, okay, like I am not going to do this for myself. I'm too used to making do, but like I owe it to them
Yeah.
to make sure that they don't go 4 years without ever having a trans instructor. That's where that visibility was so important. And that was, I didn't realize at the moment how impactful that would be, but like looking
Yeah.
back at it now, like that was the moment. That was the thing that turned my whole transition journey kind of up into high gear. I mean, I'm really
Yeah.
grateful for that student for doing so. It's a very vulnerable thing to do to
It
tell an
is.
instructor that. And I maybe would have gotten here eventually, but I did when I did because of that student, and that really,
That's
uh,
beautiful. It's so
yeah,
reciprocal in both ways. I love that.
it
And
is.
that's one of the reasons I try to be as visible as I can. And I think it's so important for people who, if it's safer for you to be out and visible as a trans person, why it is so important, because I know how important seeing other trans people was to me. I've mentioned on this show many times all the trans lady writers that I saw before I came out that let me think you can be a writer and be a trans lady. You'll still have a career and you can be yourself while you do it. And that meant the world to me. It gave me the courage to believe I could do it too. And so it's so important that if we can be visible, that we are, to help the others out there. You never know who's going to see you and be inspired to think, I can do that. And that's such a beautiful thing.
Right, because the number of people who are going to tell you that you
It's,
have
yeah,
inspired them in some way or that you have helped them in some way, like the ratio of people who will actually tell you that versus the number of people who have experienced that but have not told you, like
right.
it's a pretty like unweighted ratio, right? There's a ton of people I'm sure that we've impacted just by being
Yeah,
and being visible that, we're not going to ever know about. So like that's also worth considering too, is if like even one person has ever told you that, you should know how many ripples you're sending into the world that are going to turn into
exactly.
waves. It's remarkable.
Yeah, it really is. It's so impactful that just by being ourselves, we don't even have to do anything but exist as our true selves. And that's enough to make others think they can, do it too, because they can. And it's so beautiful. And I love
Yeah.
that. All right. If you had advice for people who are just starting their transition, what would it be?
I mean, I think that, making a practice of taking those selfies so that you do have like those moments to track your progress
Yeah, yeah.
and your happiness with how you look over time. I think that that's really important. I also think it's like for me, and so maybe this will only resonate with a subsection of your listeners, but for me, it took me a really long time to trust my sense of style and aesthetic
Yeah.
that, I think I had tried for a very long time to dress in ways that were, going to be either safe,
Yep.
classic looks, or, that would otherwise not draw attention to myself. And
Yeah.
I had started this practice when I was trying to figure out what my style was going to be, and I just started collecting photos of movie characters and pieces of art and selfies that other people have posted, and just kind of like collecting them in a folder and starting to like look for things that were in common between them,
Sure.
right? To start figuring out like, well, okay, so what's my taste? What
Yeah.
do I love? Because I'm already going to get weird looks just for being a trans person in the world. That's
Unfortunately, this is
unavoidable. I
true.
mean,
Yeah.
it's yeah. And so if I'm going to get weird looks anyway, I might as well wear things that I enjoy because
Exactly.
someone else who sees me and judges me for it isn't like they're gonna do that whether I'm in a jeans and a t-shirt
Yep.
or I'm in a weird asymmetric dress, right? So
Right.
go with the kind of styles and aesthetics that you like and you're gonna feel good in and like learning to we're supposed to keep language PG-13, disregard the haters.
There you
I think
go.
that's really important.
Yeah. It is. And we're going to talk a little bit more about style later on toward the end of this bit. So we will get there too. All right, before we dive in, one last time, remind folks where they can find you online after listening.
Yeah, you can find me on Bluesky at theydem.press, theydempress. And I post selfies there, not quite daily, but almost every day as a continued practice of celebrating loving the way that I look.
Yeah, they're a bright spot in my morning. Your little good morning ones that you've been posting. They're so good.
That's so
Okay.
sweet. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. This is all related, first of all, to episode 91 on photos and reflections and how those can be so difficult for so many trans people for most of our lives. And then, of course, last week's episode, Photos to the Selfie Apocalypse, when everything changed and I started seeing myself in photos all the time without even trying. Over the past few years, especially after all my photos flipped from being amazing for me, people asked me for tips on taking selfie. Trans people certainly, but even cis people were asking me how they could get such good selfies. And at first that was so weird to me. It's still so weird to me because I look at the photos and I like them and I think they're wonderful and that's literally all I care about. So the fact that they, and by extension me, could look good to anyone else wasn't even something I had considered. Though I should have, for I am very hot and cute and need to be told so regularly. Ahem. It's important to know that cameras lie, but they also tell a truth, not the truth. It's complex. So a camera only records exactly what's in front of it, right? Yes, except what's in front of it is drastically impacted by the framing of the photographer, the lens, the lighting, perspective, and the angle of the shot, and more. There's an image in the text version of this essay that I love, but I have no idea where it's originally from. It's a black and white image of someone at a video camera, and the video camera's screen shows a person on the left trying to stab a person on the right. But what's in front of the camera is the person on the left running away from the person on the right who is actually trying to stab the person on the left. The framing of the camera distorts what is seen. The genius of that image is it's used to talk about the way media frames stories, like refusing to name Trump's bigotry for what it is and saying he has, quote, unconventional ideas or whatever. But it also works for actual literal cameras. The person controlling the camera controls what you, the viewer, see. The camera isn't lying, but it's also not telling the truth. In fact, Hollywood has used this sort of thing for ages for special effects, long before the advent of CGI. There's an amazing animated GIF from the silent movie Safety Last in the text version of this essay that shows you how forced perspective provided an astounding special effect. It shows Harold Lloyd hanging from a clock on the outside of a building, apparently dangling over a busy street. The image pauses and the camera pulls back to show it was a set on a rooftop and the street, quote unquote, below him was actually really far behind him, but the forced perspective changed how it looked. So that camera wasn't lying, right? It was showing you exactly what it saw, but the people using that camera used what it saw to distort what you saw, and this is how cameras can both lie and tell the truth at the same time. Forced perspective is used all the time, and in fact is what was used rather than CGI through most of the Lord of the Rings films to make the hobbits appear small. There's some great articles about it in the show notes. So the art of a good selfie is being aware of things like that and manipulating the camera to get it to show the you that is the truth, and not a distorted view of who you are and what you see. Okay, did it take you a while to figure out that sometimes the camera lies to you, Errata? And how hard that can be to deal with when we're so desperately trying to see ourselves in photos?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember like I had this ex who taught me this really lovely trick where like I was watching her take a selfie and so she would like
Yeah.
hold her camera up and spin around in a circle and I'm like, "What are you doing? What's happening here?" She's like, "This is how you find the best lighting.
Oh
Like
my
you
God,
look
we're
at the
going to get there in
front-facing
just a minute. Yes,
camera." Right,
exactly.
yeah. And you
Yeah.
spin around and you look at where the light hits you and you look best. I'm like, "Oh, okay, okay,
Right?
okay."
Yeah.
Like, and and that started, of course, like a hyperfixation. Like, okay, so I need to figure out how cameras work.
Yeah.
I need to read some articles. I need to watch some videos. This is how I approach challenges in my life. Is no wonder that I'm an academic. I go and I see what other
Sure.
people have already figured out and try to incorporate that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, but that I think was like a moment I can pinpoint where I'm just like, I need to be thinking about this not as like this this thing that I'm quick doing to get over with as soon as possible, right? This
Yeah,
is something that I should have some intentionality with, and I should learn how what other people know about how cameras capture an image,
exactly. Yeah.
and that was a game changer,
It
honestly.
was. I
Yeah.
remember the most frustrating thing for me at the start was I would like be in the bathroom and I'd look in the mirror and I'd be like, there she
Yes.
is. I'm right there. This is so great. Let's get a selfie. And I take a selfie and I'm like, that's not what I just looked like in the mirror
Hmm.
at all. What is happening? And I would be so mad. And then you get dysphoric or you feel like maybe I really don't look like what I see in the mirror and it's terrible. So stick around, folks. Okay, we're going to get into it. Give you these
Well, and
tips.
for like a bit of relief for maybe
Yeah,
some mirror fans who haven't experienced this, but like in the discrepancy between the you in the mirror and the you in the selfie, like it's important to remember that like you are seeing you as other people see you when you look in the mirror. The camera lens works so much differently than a human eye, and
yeah,
and
yeah.
so if you do love the way you look in the mirror, but you're just like, dang, I do not look good in these selfies, like at least be rest assured that the way other people are seeing you in real life is going to more closely match what you see in the mirror.
That's right. And we're going to talk about how to make that photo, those selfies match what you see in the mirror more. Okay, so over the course of taking mumble number of selfies, I've learned a whole lot about what works and what doesn't. And while what works for me may not be what works for you, there are some general guidelines that will help everyone. I believe there are three main components to good selfies. One, lighting. Two, angle of the camera lens and the lens itself. And three, your style. I shall now attempt to explain them all as best I can. Let's go in order. So first is lighting. Your best lighting is almost always going to be sunlight, but not direct sunlight. It's way too strong and will wash you out or make things look harsh. That's true of artificial light too, however. Direct light is harsh, and even more importantly, it casts hard shadows, which are going to make absolutely everyone look bad or like you're in a horror movie. You want diffuse light, which is light that is ambient or bounced or reflected back toward you. This is the main reason most of my selfies are taken in the same spot in our small apartment, because it's the one place with really good natural diffuse lighting. If you look at the selfie at this part in the text version of the essay, you can note the complete lack of hard shadows, or any shadows, as I've half turned toward the light source so the diffuse light is hitting my face and front side. I take my photos right next to a big window, but never when the sun is directly shining in the spot I stand. So the light you see in them is bouncing in through the window off the street, sidewalk, plants, and buildings outside. It gives a really soft, natural glow, and I swear to you that's 50% of the entire battle. What happens when the lighting is bad? There's a photo of me taken by my lovely wife Susan here at Nickelodeon for the Monster High graduation party that wrapped season 2 of the show. We wrote 6 episodes that season. That's why we were there. If you didn't know, now you know. Anyway,
What did I say when I took the picture?
I'm going to get right to it. I like this photo because it shows me in my fabulous fit at the Monster High party, but I don't like how my face looks in it at all. There's no dysphoria from it. It just looks bad and kind of not like me. And this isn't Susan's fault. In fact, she's the one that told me that there was really bad lighting there. But I wanted a photo anyway. It was important to me to commemorate the show and getting to attend the party, but it's not a great photo of me. There's harsh light directly overhead, and you can see the stark shadows it's casting all over my face. It makes me look weird. That kind of lighting will make anyone look weird, which is the point. If you're not thinking about lighting, you're going to have a really tough time getting photos of you that look good. There's a sort of meme along the lines of, if you want to know where the good lighting is, just follow the trans girls. We spent a lifetime waiting for amazing pictures of us, and even subconsciously, many of us figure out how to find the good lighting wherever we're at. Okay, Errata, I've mentioned many times that your selfies do not miss. They're so good, and you always look so stunning. So how long did it take you to figure out how important the good lighting was?
I think that like I had that moment of discovering the spinning around
Yep.
trick, and that that kind of started it, but it took me a while until I was making like a regular practice of it to
Yeah,
really feel like I had a good handle on, right, the spots in my house that I was going to look best in, or the times of day. I always take my selfies in the morning because it's right after I've shaved, so I don't have to, I'm like not
sure. Yep.
contending with as much in the way of like a beard shadow. And also, but when I walk to the bus station to get to campus, there's a spot that I've identified that as long as I'm taking it before a certain point in the morning, that morning light where it's again like not
Mm-hmm.
direct, not
Yeah.
overhead, casting shadows on the face. You get that beautiful diffuse natural light. I'm like, okay, this is my selfie spot.
Is that is that the spot with all the plants? Yeah, I've
Yeah,
seen it. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
like
I'm like, that's a good spot. She's always there.
tall grass and
Yeah.
it's got like a nice backdrop
Yeah, yeah.
and that I'll like also have contrast with, right?
Sure.
So it took me a bit of experimentation and I'll always kind of take some from different angles and
Sure.
yeah, it was within the first year of making like a pretty consistent practice of things that I started to feel like, okay, I've got, I think, a handle on this lighting thing. Trying to do lighting indoors, and especially like if I want to take photos at night, that's
Yeah.
been a little bit more challenging.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like having an LED lamp that I can kind of adjust color on has been helpful, or getting a few different smaller lights and kind of learning the way that, where I place them in the room, how that's going to affect the way that the light falls on me
Yeah.
relative to where the camera is. Getting used to like if I'm holding my camera or if I'm holding my phone up for a selfie, I need to make sure I'm not blocking the light source because otherwise I get this like big
Yep.
bar of shadow across my face.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like all of that just takes time, experimentation, and practice,
Yeah.
as well as, read some articles, learn from folks who figured this out before you.
Absolutely. Like this very one that we're doing here. Like, listen, though, it's like anything. Selfies, getting good at anything, you have to practice. And it can be
Hmm.
hard, especially when you don't see yourself in the photos or if they're giving you dysphoria. Like when I started out, I used to take like 200 photos and I would get one that I liked, maybe. And now I can take two and I'll love them both. And that's great. It takes all of that practice to get to that point. So,
Yeah, I think I'm down to like 5 photos. I'm like, okay, one of these is gonna hit. I
yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
check on the way to the bus stop.
Okay, so like Errata mentioned before, if you can't tell where the good lighting is in your home, it's super easy to figure out with modern phones. Just turn on the front-facing camera so you see yourself on the screen and then turn, walk around. Pay close attention to the ways the light and shadow move across your face. When you find a spot that gets you good, consistent, even, diffuse lighting, X marks the spot. If you're outside and it's really bright, photos in the shade are your friend. But there's other things you can do too. My large sun hat, which is in stealth trans pride flag colors, heck yeah, can turn direct sunlight into diffuse sunlight that hits my face, meaning I can get pretty good selfies anywhere outside while I'm wearing it. Up next, angle. We all have angles we prefer and dislike for a variety of reasons. There are angles we feel we look better from, angles that are unflattering to almost everyone, angles that help us see what we want to see. People say they have a, quote, good side for a reason. I'm partial to the right side of my face as opposed to the left side. I don't hate the left side, but I think the right is better somehow. It probably has something to do with my left cheek having that scar on it that I really don't like. And don't feel bad if you have scars. Scars can be cool, but this one isn't for me for reasons. I don't like it, and I think it messes up my selfies, so you will rarely see it. It just so happens I am also right-handed, and so when taking selfies, I hold the phone with my right hand unless it's easier to shoot the right side of my face. It also just so happens that the spot in our small apartment with the best lighting is the window I take most of my selfies near, which requires turning to my left for better lighting and no shadows. It's a trifecta of things that make right-handed selfies in that one spot work really well for me. But also, you might not even realize just how much angle will affect how a person looks. We can debate whether this photo that I'm talking about here is a selfie or not, as I used a tripod and a remote, so it's me taking the photo, but I wasn't holding the phone. But in the text version, you can see a straight-on shot of me. Look how much it changed the shape of my face compared to the first selfie in this essay that I used to show the lack of shadows. I'm the same human. Nothing major happened to me or even with my HRT between those two photos. They were like a week or two apart. No major changes to my face have occurred. This is exacerbated by the very light shadows on the right side of my face, your left as you look at the photo. This is because I've turned a bit away from the light source, that window I use, and so my nose and other features are now casting those shadows. They're very faint because it was very bright when I took that photo and a lot of light comes through the window, so it's not dire, stark shadows like in the one from the Monster High Party. Soft shadows can be okay, and you may even prefer how you look with them, but they will change the way your face is perceived by both you and others. There's also likely to be some kind of distortion no matter what angle you use. In fact, different lenses shot from different distances can completely alter the way a face looks. There's a great article about it from a photographer in the show notes. So how much can the angle or lens change an image? Well, all of my selfies are taken with my phone's front-facing camera, so the lens doesn't change, but my distance from it does, especially when I use the tripod, and the angle always does. In the text version of this, you can look at a shot of me in my first bikini. It's pretty great, right? It's okay, you can tell me. But if you look at my stomach there, it's a weird thing to say, but it looks kind of soft and nice. But I've worked for years and years on shaping my body with exercise. It was the first thing I ever did to start my transition. You can learn more about that in Body Hacking, which was episode 9 of this podcast. So when I posted that bikini pic to social media, I had to include a second photo because that first one does not at all accurately show you what I've achieved with my abs. So then look at me in the bikini from another angle. And look how different my abs are. Look between those two photos and marvel at what an angle alone can do. For that matter, feel free to ogle those biceps I've worked so hard for. I love them so much. But then you can look at that exact same bicep in similar lighting, but from an entirely different angle. And it erases all the years of work in progress I've put into my bicep. It looks tiny and barely defined at all. And if angle alone can do that for a bicep, just imagine what it does to a face. Have you found your angles, Errata? Do you know what works for you and what doesn't? And was that all tough to figure out?
Yeah, it was like super tough to find. And yeah, there's like definitely a side of my face that I prefer, that I tend to turn towards
Yeah,
the lens. And part of that too is because I like to do winged eyeliner and they
me
never come
too.
out even. So
Oh,
like,
they do not. No.
you put your head at a bit of an angle and no one can really tell. So
Yeah, absolutely.
um, we're looking for sisters, not twins, girls.
That's right. Cousins
Um,
sometimes at best.
yeah, yeah, cousins are fine. Yeah, and then you had mentioned a tripod. That was like one
Yeah,
of the biggest game changers for me because there are only so many angles that you can get because not only are you contending with the angle of the camera to your body, but also the way you have to hold your body to hold the camera in that
yep,
position. That's going to change the way that your body looks too. So like getting a tripod with a little remote that kind of slides into it when it's all folded up. It's like nice and
yeah,
small. I can put it in my backpack. But that was a really big game changer too, being able to adjust not only like the height at which that camera or that angle is going to take the photo at,
yeah,
but also being able to kind of free up my body to position it in such a way that I feel like it's an accurate reflection.
yeah,
So yeah, no, I mean like angles are absolutely everything. And I have like a fairly prominent nose, which often casts shadows if I don't position my head just correctly. You
sure.
know, my brows are a little bit pronounced, and so anything with if I'm not tilting my head up, if there's light overhead, it's going to cast a really dark shadow on my eyes. I'm going to look way more tired than I actually
Yeah.
am, which is still significantly tired, but I don't always look
Aren't
at.
we all? Yes. Yeah,
So, you know, thinking about the angle at which you're holding your head to your light source, you know, the position your body is in, if you're finding yourself limited by holding your phone for a selfie, you know, that's worth considering. I've also been playing around a little bit too with, you know, your front-facing camera is going to be at the top of your screen,
yeah,
turning your phone upside down and seeing if that makes a difference based on what you're trying to capture
yeah,
in that
yeah,
image. That can actually make a really, really big difference. Our phones are quite large now, and you're absolutely changing the height at which that lens is sitting and the
yep,
angle at which it's viewing you. So it's another place to experiment with if if you don't have a tripod, hold your phone a few different ways and see what, if that helps at all.
absolutely. That is great advice. And you can find those angles that you like and think work for you the same way you found good lighting. In fact, that's where you need to start. Go back to that X marks the spot that you found with the good lighting. And now use your front-facing camera and move it all around you, up, down, left, right. Turn it upside down. Look at the ways it changes your face shape and appearance and find the ones that show the true you. In fact, just turn your phone sideways as if taking a horizontal selfie and watch how that changes your face too, because you've moved the lens and now it's shooting you from a different angle, which will make you look different. For what it's worth, I still haven't figured out how to find an angle I really like in horizontal selfies. So if I want to take a selfie with a bunch of people all gathered and turn the phone horizontal to fit them all in the frame, I'm not going to like what it does to my face because I haven't found the right spot for it yet. I don't take many selfies in landscape mode for a reason. I mean, I don't often have the occasion to, though, so I don't practice it. And if we don't practice something, we're never going to get better. Practice, practice, practice. It really helps. If you pay attention, trans folks, you will see a ton of cis people who post great selfies are already doing this. They know their angles, they know where the good lighting is, and they stick to them. And that's great for them, but it's also great for you, too. Do whatever you have to in order to make the camera show you the truth. All right, the final step, style. This is one that may seem unrelated, but it really matters. Part of, but not the main or even biggest portion of, the reason I disliked so many of my early selfies is because it took me years of trial and error to find my style, to find the clothes that truly expressed myself and who I am. And so, surprise, surprise, when I was taking selfies in clothes that didn't accurately represent me, those photos didn't accurately represent me. It definitely played into them not feeling all the way like me. Check out episode 33 on finding our trans style that may hopefully help you through it a little, but unfortunately it's something we all have to figure out on our own. Nobody can tell you what your style is. We can tell you what we think might look good on you, but what we think is not what you think. And until you are happy in your skin and your style, your photos might always feel like they're not really you yet, because they aren't. This was so hard for me, especially because it takes so much time and money to experiment with style and find what feels like home. So what was that process like for you, Errata? Because your style is so fabulous and so you, and I love it. It's iconic.
My style kind of grew out of the conditions in which I guess, started experimenting with them. When
Okay.
I had moved here to Michigan, and it was, in when we were still taking the pandemic seriously and we
Yeah.
are kind of locking down, right? For me, it felt a little bit like I'm a big sci-fi fan, so I'm like, this is like
Same.
being on like a space freighter, right? Like I'm trapped in this little box with multiple rooms, and I have my crew, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, no one is gonna see what I'm wearing anyway. So I started, I bought a couple things that were very, you know, a crew member on a spaceship, right?
Yeah.
Something that kind of had some like vaguely Star Trek sort of vibes to it. Or like Ripley from Alien was
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
really big like style inspiration for me. And, you know, because of the confluence of not wanting to go out into the world because of the pandemic and feeling very self-conscious about taking up space, in like a
Yeah.
changing room, for
Right.
instance, right? I got my measurements. I had a friend help me take them, and then I went and looked for stuff online. I'd been buying clothes online for my previous wardrobe. So I had a couple shops that on Etsy that I
Yeah.
had kind of looked at and never really decided, to get anything from them. But then when I started looking in the women's section, I'm like, oh, I
Oh
really like
ho.
the way this looks. Like, this
Yeah.
is so cool. I'm not seeing something like this before. Like, and I decided to trust my taste, even though those were maybe weird outfits, again, very asymmetrical, maybe with like a little bit of avant-garde edge to them, very sci-fi cyberpunk inspired
Yeah.
for a lot of them.
They're super cool.
And thank you. I appreciate that. And so I'm like, again, like I had said previously, like if people are gonna stare either way, and I might as
Yep.
well wear something that I know that I like and wear it because I know I like it. And
Exactly.
building up that trust to, in your own taste is really, really difficult, especially if your taste has not aligned with how what other people believe is appropriate for you,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so learning to just say, F it, like we're just gonna get some stuff that I know that I'm going to enjoy.
Exactly. Yes.
And
Yes.
ordering offline has been really big for being able to discover that, because my tastes aren't what you will find in, a standard clothing store. But there are these small little shops online who are, because they don't have to maintain a storefront, they can do some stuff that's a little more experimental or might resonate with you in some way.
Yeah.
And for finding those, I mean, it was a lot of just, there's a ton of posters on Bluesky that I really enjoy the way that they dress and some of the fashion oriented subreddits, especially for like alt fashion or goth fashion or queer fashion, that I would, search for folks whose styles felt like, oh, that that looks so cool. I want to look like that. Okay,
Yeah,
let's see where they shop. If they don't list it in the post, leave a comment and ask them. And usually folks are willing to share that stuff. And that helped me, kind of grow a little list of places that I tend to frequent for my outfits because they resonate with my particular style. So if you don't see your own style reflected in the places where you're shopping, maybe that's a sign that you need to branch out a little bit and maybe try to
absolutely.
find some
Yes.
stuff that is outside of what's being offered in front of you.
Yeah. That's
So,
great advice. A lot of the places that like I get the dresses that I love the most from, you can't find those at like Target or at the mall. They're
right.
you can't do that. So, and you
There's
don't have to
perfectly
dress how anyone wants you to. Find whatever works for you, and that's all that matters.
I will say that like I definitely have gotten clothes at Target or Kohl's or any of the these department stores and there is
Yeah.
some really cute stuff there, but like it caters to a very narrow range of
Right.
aesthetic.
Right. Right.
And you may not that may not be an aesthetic that vibes with you, and that's okay.
Right. And it's okay if it does too. Whatever's
Yeah,
good for you.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
all
You got to
about
find
you,
something that
folks.
you enjoy
Right.
and feels right. Yeah.
Absolutely right. Perfectly said. Thank you for being here, Errata.
It's been a true pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Friends, do what you can to settle into the way you want to express yourself through your clothes. Find the angles you love. Find that good lighting. Experiment, fail, learn, experiment again, and eventually, maybe you'll find your way to selfie nirvana. If it happened for me, it could happen for you. Tilly Bridges, end transmission. Tilly's Trans Tuesdays is hosted by Tilly Bridges and Susan Bridges with audio editing and sound mixing by Jillian Morgan. The Google Doc and social media versions of this week's topic and all past topics are available at tilliestrainstuesdays.com. Special thanks to Daisy and Jane for the use of Sorry Not Sorry as our show's theme music. Please stop by and show your support at daisyandjane.bandcamp.com and soundcloud.com/daisyandjane. You can find me at Tilly Bridges on Bluesky, Twitter, and Hive, on Mastodon at Tilly Bridges at mastodon.social, at facebook.com/TillySBridges, and on Insta and Threads at Heck Yeah Tilly Bridges. And you can find Susan on most of those at Susan L. Bridges. You can find Jillian at Audio Jillian on Bluesky. You can join the Tillyverse Discord server by following the link at the very bottom of TillysTransTuesdays.com. We hold regular watch parties for the Matrix films and other trans movies where I do a live Q&A, and it's blossomed into a wonderfully supportive, compassionate, kind community of friends. We'd love to have you join us. For more information, visit pendantaudio.com. Thanks for listening.